Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the show. I'm your host Riaz Gull. I have a guest with me today. She is an expert and specialist in employment law and public law, including the immigration and human rights. And I do very warm welcome to our guest, Barrister Nabila Malik. Ms. Nabila, very welcome to you.
Good afternoon, or shall I say good evening, Riaz.
Thank you much, appreciate. As we last program we discussed and we announced we are going to be a talk today for the work visa in the UK, as we talked last week for the immigration and business visa, and today we are going to be talk for the work visa. And let me ask the question to Ms. Nabila, because she's I'm going to be at this opportunity because she's here, and I will ask the question, and even you can call us if you have any question regarding the work visa or the sponsor license or anything for extension or the initial application. But let me start to ask the first question. Ms. Nabila, could you please tell us, my audience, if anybody want to come in the UK for work visa, how they can come?
Well, there are two types of ways to enter. Depends whether you want to enter as a temporary employee or as an employee who's going to be working for somebody for 3 years or up to 5 years. There are two routes. There is something called the Tier 2 system,
right,
and there is something called the Tier 5 system. The Tier 2 system provides longer periods of employment in the United Kingdom, and the Tier 5 system provides temporary periods of employment. The
right.
Tier 2 general migrant visa is run on a quota system. So the Secretary of State currently permits 20,700 persons to come to the UK to work.
So this is for the years
from overseas.
All right.
And there is currently a refusal rate of about 50% for those who apply for Tier 2 visas. And the most interesting aspects of it is that it really is for those jobs where there is a shortage of occupation,
right,
shortage of employees in the United Kingdom who could fulfill these vacancies. The types of jobs are, for instance, in the nuclear science fields.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think I do understand you're going to be wider aspects. Let me ask, I think the beginning, if I'm talking about the Tier 2, is it Tier 2 for the settlement routes, or is how they talking about Tier 2?
That's exactly the point that I was making, that it's the Tier 2 allows people to work in the United Kingdom for longer periods of time, and you can come to the United Kingdom for a period of 3 years, extend for a further 2 years. Then after 5 years, 1 month, you can apply for permanent residency in the United Kingdom, as you know, because you process a lot of these applications. And so people, of course, large numbers of applications are made under the Tier 2 route. And as I was saying earlier, that the problem is that they are really for those jobs where there is a shortage of UK nationals who could fill the vacancies in the United Kingdom.
Of course.
And the reason I mentioned initially the types of jobs were very specialist in certain cases, like the nuclear industry, like, for instance, civil engineering, like medicine and healthcare. But there are also the jobs, for instance, teaching in secondary education. So more general types of work that create a lot of competition from overseas, but nevertheless we have demands in the United Kingdom for those vacancies to be filled. The difficulty often is in finding a Tier 2 sponsor license, because the way that these visas work, Riaz, as you know, that you have to have, it's called the points-based system, because you have to have a number of points in order to be successful in your application.
Before I go for the application, could you please tell me, because if anybody want to come in the UK, as my understanding is you have to be sponsor license. So do we need to be with the sponsor license, the employer first, and then he can make the applications? Or
You're right that you need to have a sponsor. And what that means is an employer.
Yeah.
And what kind of employer? Well, the type of employer that is going to be able to give you a sponsorship is someone who employs employees around 20 to 250 employees in an organisation.
Right.
So a medium-sized company, as we recognise them in the United Kingdom, or an employer who employs less than 20
Yeah.
people would have to be supported by the Department of Trade and Industry as somebody who's able to sponsor employees for overseas.
Yeah.
So there are specific requirements that the sponsor has to meet in order to achieve the right to sponsor employees from overseas.
Yeah.
That is for another program. We're going to deal with how employees
So
come
if
here.
I understand, I think
today.
there's two parts. First, we need to get the sponsor license, and after the sponsor license, he can get the course letter, and then he can apply for the applications.
Yes.
Is it happen same for the tier 5 as well, the short occupations or for the
No,
short times?
that's a good question. Tier 5, you have 5 different categories.
Right.
And they are of a different nature to Tier 2
Right.
jobs. The type of jobs that you can apply, that you will be coming to fill in the United Kingdom are really temporary work as either a charity worker, a religious worker, say for instance an imam, a entertainer,
yeah.
a ballet dancer, for example,
Yeah.
an artist.
Yeah.
And then there is something called the Youth Mobility Programme, which is specifically designed for those who are between 18 to 30 years of age.
Right.
And they are for people, to encourage youth to come to the United Kingdom, to have work experience, and allows residency for up to 2 years. However, as attractive as the visa as it is, and it replicates what you might know as the old-style working holiday makers visa that was widely available to nationals around the world.
Right.
Unfortunately, with the youth mobility visa, it's confined to certain countries such as Australia, Hong Kong, Canada, New Zealand, etc.
Normally, Nabila, I have a very, I think this often question that all the clients and the viewers they ask. Because they asking what is the difference between Tier 2 general and the short occupation list. If any vacancies come short occupation list, do they need to go for the Tier 2, or they have an exemption for the labour market test, or they have to go for the labour market test if the case is the vacancies come under short occupation?
Yes, a lot of people who apply for Tier 2 employment don't realise the difficulties that arise through the resident market test. Because, of course, although I said that we're going to discuss the sponsorship licence in another programme, it's important to explain this. With the resident market test, the employer, the sponsor, has to advertise the job for a period of 28 days on 2 different occasions, 6 months prior to applying for a certificate of sponsorship, i.e. the permission to have an employee from overseas employed by them. And that is to show that the vacancy could not be filled by someone in the United Kingdom.
Right.
And that's why a lot of these jobs that Tier 2 attracts are genuinely places where we have a shortage. We have a shortage of secondary school teachers in the fields of science, physics, maths, biology, chemistry,
I
etc.
think just for my viewers, so I understand, if any vacancies come under the short occupation list, then it means they no need to be labour market test. They can apply to fill the rest of the requirements. They can make the application without going to the labour market test. Okay, what is the difference when we're talking about Tier 5, the short occupation? So is there have a chance if anybody come on the Tier 5 and within the company or the organization, if they have a vacancy for the Tier 2 for the settlement, so can they switch from Tier 5 to Tier 2 within an organization or the different organization? Or?
Well, Tier 5, there are, depending on which category you come in to the United Kingdom,
Yep.
there are certain conditions placed upon it. Now, I discussed earlier that under the Youth Mobility Tier 5 visa, you can come to the United Kingdom for up to 24 months.
Right.
But that isn't the case for all the categories.
Yeah. Oh, of course, it's
For instance,
apply.
if you came to the United Kingdom specifically to participate in a show
Yeah.
like Cirque du Soleil, the number of performances are relevant.
Yeah.
So you'll be telling the Home Secretary, well, I'm going to be performing at the Royal Albert Hall for a period of 2 weeks. That is the extent to which you could remain in the United Kingdom for.
Right.
Of course, you can extend the visa whilst you're here, but the fact of the matter is that if you're coming for a specific reason, as a creative person or as an entertainer or as a sports person, your visa is limited in time for that specific purpose. For sports people, they can come up to 12 months, but they're all subject to extensions, etc., meeting the conditions. And the points-based system, I think that you, with the temporary Tier 5, you have to be granted about 40 points. 10 points is for maintenance. You have to have a certain amount of money available for you to spend in the United Kingdom while you're here.
Okay, let me just refine.
Just let me finish that. And also you need, you need 30 points, and that comes from the certificate of sponsorship.
Right, thank you.
Sorry.
So Nabil, I think just last question before we take the other calls, start the calls system. Normally the people, they ask when they're saying, because we need to talk with a lot of the clients and the viewers, they will ask normally for the sponsor license or when they're applying for that, right? The Tier 2 and the Tier 5 all is under the Tier 2, under the point-based systems. But when they're applying for the settlement, the Tier 2 people only can apply for the settlement after the 5 years, not for that 5. Yeah, Tier 5 people, they can't apply for the settlement, don't they?
No, this is the point that we made at the outset. Yeah. Really, Tier 2 is the only route by which you come to the United Kingdom and eventually, after extension and meeting, of course, these extension, at the point of making an application for an extension, you have to meet certain conditions. That is the only route by which you can apply for permanent residency. The Tier 5 is, as I've described, a temporary way to come to the United Kingdom.
For the short period.
And with the relevant extensions, it's up to a maximum, depending on the category, of course, from 12 months to 24 months, no more than that. And you cannot apply for settlement in the United Kingdom. You must return back to your home country. And so it is difficult to switch from a Tier 5 category to any other category.
I really much appreciate for explaining it in details. As a lot of people is on the phone calls, I think we'll take the first call for today. Hello. Hello.
Hello, yes.
जी, you are on air. What's your question, my friend?
जी भाईजान, क्या चला? ठीक है?
बिल्कुल ठीक, आप फरमाइए कैसे हैं आप?
ठीक ठाक भाईजान, मैं आपसे क्वेश्चन ये करना चाहता हूँ। मैं 7.5 साल पहले अपनी वाइफ के साथ इस कंट्री में स्टूडेंट वीजे पे आया था।
राइट।
तो मैंने 1 साल का डिप्लोमा किया, तो उसके बाद मैंने एक्सटेंशन डाली।
राइट।
तो 7 साल होम ऑफिस के साथ मैं कोर्ट केस ही करता रहा हूँ, और कॉलेज में भी नहीं मुझे पढ़ने दिया गया क्योंकि होम ऑफिस की गलती थी, मेरे पास आईडी कोई नहीं थी। होम ऑफिस को मुसलसल कहता रहा कि आप यहाँ हमें जवाब।
अब आपका लेटेस्ट स्टेटस क्या है मेरा भाई?
अभी मेरी अपील अप्रूव हो गई है।
कहाँ से?
अपर टर्मिनल से।
राइट, ओके, व्हाट इज क्वेश्चन नाउ?
तो अभी मुझे एडमिशन लेना है।
राइट।
लेकिन जनवरी में है एडमिशन और कोई भी यूनिवर्सिटी मुझे एडमिशन नहीं दे रही।
राइट।
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि अगर मैं ह्यूमन राइट्स की अप्लाई करूं तो उसमें मुझे जज इस चीज को कंसीडर करेगा कि
और आपकी फैमिली में यूके में कौन है? आप, आपकी वाइफ और
2 बच्चे मेरे यहाँ पे हुए हैं, एक 3 साल का है और एक 1 साल का।
राइट। अब आपका सवाल ये है कि आपको अपील अलाउ हो गई लेकिन आपको कोई एडमिशन नहीं मिल रहा अप टू द जनवरी और गैप आ रहा है मोर देन 28 डेज का, तो क्या आप एप्लीकेशन डालेंगे तब के आपको टाइम मिल जाए और दोबारा वीजा अप्लाई करेंगे? ये सवाल आपका जी?
जी कि अगर मैं जज के पास जाऊँ तो वो कंसीडर करेगा कि होम ऑफिस ने हमसे ज्यादती की है तो हमें टाइम देना चाहिए। वो
ज्यादती का अजाला तो हो गया ना, आपने कोई ज्यादती हुई, आपको अपील अलाउ हो गई आपके फेवर में, अब ये उसको आपको रेमेडी मिल गई है। अब आपको मिस्टर मिला, आई थिंक व्हाट इज योर एडवाइस, बिकॉज ही ओनली मेड द एप्लीकेशन, ही कांट गो द जज अगेन because judge ने अपील को फेवर में अलाउ कर दी है, is right?
So his appeal has been allowed.
Yep.
And so he's at a stage where he's been given leave. Is that correct?
He don't get the leave. He just only grant appeal is allowed, and he can't get the admission by the January because no admission is available before that.
Right, that's correct. But the appeal has been allowed. So what I'm trying to understand is, what has he done with the Secretary of State? I didn't quite understand what he said just then about his application to the Secretary of State, because if the appeal has been allowed, then he should be granted exactly what the appeal has determined that he should be granted.
आप अपना जो डिटर्मिनेशन है वो अपने सोलिसिटर से डिस्कस करें या किसी को मिले जाके, उसमें लिखा होगा कि क्या आपको लीव मिल गई है तो आपको कार्ड मिल जाएगा, या अगर आपको उन्होंने कहा कि आपको अपील आपकी फेवर में अलाउ करते हैं और विद इन अ सर्टेन टाइम आप एडमिशन लेके दोबारा अप्लाई कर दें, ये चेक करें आपको जो रेमेडी मिली है या जो जज ने डिटर्मिनेशन दिया है उसमें उन्होंने कौन से पॉइंट्स की आपके फेवर में अपील अलाउ की है। वो डिटर्मिनेशन इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, अगर उस पर आप फॉलो करोगे तो आपको काम ठीक होगा। लेकिन अगर सिर्फ आपकी अपील अलाउ हुई है इस बेस पे कि आप नया एडमिशन अप्लाई करें, एडमिशन लेके वीज़ा अप्लाई करें और टाइम दिया है 28 डेज़ का जो रूल्स है, तो फिर अनफॉर्चुनेटली विद इन 28 डेज़ या तो आपको फ्रेश एप्लीकेशन करना पड़ेगी या एडमिशन लेके आपको वीज़ा अप्लाई करना पड़ेगा। अदरवाइज़ आप दोबारा जज के पास जाओगे, वैसे ज़्यादती हुई है, वो ज़्यादती का अजाला ऑलरेडी उन्होंने इस अपील अलाउ करके आपको कर दिया है। आपकी कॉल का शुक्रिया। नाज़रीन, टाइम हुआ छोटी सी ब्रेक का, स्टे विद अस, मिलते हैं वक्फे के बाद।